You might have heard art teachers talk about the importance of learning to see as an artist, or developing an artistic eye. So what exactly does that mean? What does seeing as an artist entails? Well, there are many elements to it, but one big component is being able to see accurately. Seeing accurately means being able to look at an object and replicate it on paper without mistake. This may sound simple, but it's harder than you think. When most people who don't know how to draw try to do so, they usually end up drawing not what they see, but rather some mental abstraction of what they think things should look like.
By the way, if you enjoyed this lesson, be sure to check out the full Drawing Fundamentals course at mydrawingtutorials.com/basics. It's designed to teach a complete beginner all the basic skills they'll need to become successful at drawing. Okay, back to the lesson.
So how exactly do you see accurately? Well, it boils down to two things: being able to judge angles and distances. Of the two, angle is definitely more important. Angle is like the star of the show, and distance is more of a supporting player. If you can judge angles and distances, you'll be able to draw anything accurately using a technique called triangulation. Triangulation is a technique that allows you to accurately find any point in your drawing based on its surrounding. For example, suppose I want to draw this triangle using sight size. I'll begin by copying any of the edges. Let's go with this one. To help me gauge the angle, I can imagine a plumb line, which is just a perfectly vertical line, next to the edge, and see how much it deviates from this perfect vertical, and try to match that angle on my drawing. By the way, this technique of using a perfectly vertical or horizontal line to help you measure is something that we're going to be doing a lot in drawing. And since we're working in sight size, we'll go ahead and match the distance or length of the line as well. This gives us point A and B. Okay, this line is now our home base. It helps us to establish the scale of the drawing, and we can triangulate off of this line to find point C. To do this, we'll match the angle of line BC. Again, I can imagine a perfectly horizontal line to see how much the edge deviates from it and match that angle in my drawing. This time, I actually don't need to worry about matching the length. Since we already established the scale of the drawing with the first edge, as long as our angles are accurate, all the lengths should fall into place. Now, we know that point C will lie somewhere on this line. To find it, we'll use the same process as before to match the angle of line AC. The intersection will give us the precise location of point C and close out the triangle. By now, you can probably see why this technique is called triangulation. And as you can see, simply by observing the angles, and to a lesser extent distances, we were able to create an exact match of our reference. Let's try this again. But this time, we'll draw at a different scale than our reference, also known as comparative measurement. Again, we can begin by matching the angle of any of the edges. Let's start with line AB. Now, we get to choose how big or small the drawing should be. In this case, let's make it smaller than the reference. Again, this edge establishes our scale and determines the size of the rest of the drawing. Next, we'll match the angle of line BC. Again, we know that point C is somewhere on this line. To find it, we'll match the angle of line AC. And that completes our shape. This time, by establishing our own scale, and then matching all the angles from the reference, we were able to create a drawing that is at a different size, yet still perfectly proportional to the reference. Okay, now let's try this again with a slightly more complex shape. We'll be working in comparative measurement, and we'll start off by matching the angle of one of the edges. Again, we'll imagine perfectly horizontal and vertical lines to help us gauge the angles. Now we need to establish the scale of the drawing. This time, let's make the drawing slightly bigger than the reference. Alright, so here's our home base. Now let's triangulate off of this to find point C. We'll start by matching the angle of line BC. We know that point C is somewhere on this line. To find the exact location, we'll have to imagine a line going from A to C. And if we match the angle of this line in our drawing, the intersection will give us the location of point C. Next, let's match the angle of line CD. Now let's find the exact location of point D. Here we have two choices. We can either imagine a line going from A to D, and if we were to match the angle of that line, it should give us the location of point D. The other option is to imagine a line going from B to D and match its angle. Both methods should give you the exact same result. When drawing, I often use both approaches as a way to double check each other and ensure that I have the most accurate positioning. Next, we'll match the angle of line DE. Again, to find the location of point E, we have many choices. We can imagine a line going from C to E or B to E. Or, better yet, we can match the angle of line AE. This would not only give us the location of point E, but close out the shape as well. In practice, I would probably use all three methods to ensure maximum accuracy. When all is said and done, we should have a perfectly proportional drawing. But of course, in practice, we would still have to double check our measurements and correct for any mistakes. But I hope this illustrates how triangulation works. This same process of triangulation can help you to draw any kind of subject, including complex portraits and figures. This technique is extremely critical to drawing accurately, and every artist I know uses it on some level. I know it can seem really technical now, but don't worry. We'll go through a bunch of exercises to help make this skill intuitive. And trust me, if you do enough practice, it will become intuitive. So, with that said, I'll see you in the next lesson.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you did, make sure to check out the full Drawing Fundamentals course at mydrawingtutorials.com/basics. You'll get tons of additional lessons and step-by-step exercises and learn things like how to draw anything accurately from observation, how to construct and draw objects from your imagination, how to shade realistically, and a whole lot more. So if you're ready to improve your drawing skills, head over to mydrawingtutorials.com/basics or click the link below.